are on the site of the castle.
And it was the first time the Beatles had really stopped being semi-professional almost.
Look at that.
Absolutely fascinating.
That's what you do. You buy these clothes that cost money and make a difference in it. But we never do that.
Never complains, gets up, gets on with a smile on his face.
We just want you to sit in your chair and go hip hip hooray for the Western press and the Western narrative. You dare dictate me the same old every single day without this. If you haven't seen it before, please watch the first series, the first 2 episodes, the second series. Stallone. Good evening, everyone. I was just going to put myself on, but Jason did it instead. So there I am, raring to go tonight. And I've just got to thank, before I start, Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the show. Now, Gap Painting Services are fully time-served lads, fully insured. They do remarkable work. They really do. It's great work they do. I'm not just saying that. And if you're elderly, you get a special discount. Just get them in. Don't struggle. Please don't struggle. If you're an NHS worker also, please get them in. Do not struggle. Don't be going to big long shifts and coming home and trying to paint or whatever. Get these lads in. They're fantastic and a great discount for you too if you're an NHS worker. But if you're not in those categories, as I said, as I mentioned, it's also very reasonable to get these lads in, both domestic and commercial. They do both. The first class, as I said, I've had them in myself. I really have. And this is before they became the sponsors, honestly. And they came in, so it was a remarkable job for me. They were in and out, and I can't thank them enough, to be honest. They're really good. So get them in, don't struggle. Please don't struggle. And, and tonight I've got a great guest, really great guest, Gerard Gilligan, the astronomer, knows everything about space and stars and planets and deep space and Hubbles and these new fandangled, things, telescopes out in space. And so I'll be asking him about that. And I'm going to bring him in now, actually. Gerard, first class fella. Not only that, but he'll tell us all about what's going on, anything new. And there he is. Good evening, Gerard.
Hi, Frank. Nice to see you again.
And you.
I hope it's not too late, but Happy New Year to you.
Oh, the same to you, honestly. A good 2025. Because we're in a new year. Let's hope everything calms down around the globe.
Aye.
And, let's have a peaceful new year. Starting now. So anyway, Gerard.
Yes, Frank.
Anything new happening, with all the space programs and whatever, because I know that Elon Musk, he wants to go to Mars. And when Trump came in, first thing he mentioned was Mars. He wants to go to Mars.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Well, since we last spoke, of course, things have changed. The American administration's changed. The rumor is, and it is, can I class it as a rumor, that the Artemis lunar probe that NASA's developing might be cancelled. The manned mission might be cancelled. The launch that they did a year or so ago, that cost them $3 billion, and it's very expensive. Now, if you think about Elon Musk, his SpaceX system, all his rockets are reusable. Nearly everything is reusable. The boosters come back to Earth. They can be refurbished. And I think the record is 21 hours between one coming back and it going back into space again. And, you know, I think I mentioned in the past here that the fairings that cover the satellites to protect them when they're being launched, they get jettisoned, but they get recovered and reused. And he's also developing his Starliner, which was launched for the 7th time a few weeks ago, although unfortunately it had a bit of a failure. So to get to Mars, if you think about it, it does take a long time. It takes between 18 months and 2 years. And then once you get to Mars, you've got to stay there until Mars and the Earth are close again. So the whole trip could take 4 years, perhaps a bit longer. And you've got to take all your oxygen, all your food, everything to keep you alive while you're getting to Mars. And of course, if you want to, you've got to land there. So it's very complicated. It's very technologically based. It would probably be very expensive. NASA, they were depending on other countries to absolutely help fund. But if SpaceX and Elon Musk want to go it alone, then you know it's going to cost them a bit of money. And at the same time, they've been saying about they want to do cost cutting, but if you put anything into space, it's very, very expensive. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. All I was going to say was, I don't know what you're just saying, how expensive it'll be. Of course, it'll be expensive. Point says, could there be any, you know, suppose you and I were going there, right, and we had to stay there for like 18 months, 2 years, whatever, and, you know,
Yes.
with all the food and everything else. Could there be other rockets, like they did going back to when they were, when the English were going over to 1586 to 1580 to America, for example. Now they had ships with soldiers on, sailing,
Yes.
but they also had ships with supplies, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
So could they be rockets with like portable homes, if you know what I mean? Oxygen and everything else.
Yeah, you've explained it in a very. What they could do is they could send the unmanned habitat, what the astronauts are going to live on Mars. They could go ahead. They could send the fuel, the extra fuel and food that could be sent ahead as well, to land nearby where the manned missions, the crewed missions are going to go. So yeah, they could send that kind of thing ahead, so that they could reduce the payload weight and cut costs that way. So that's I think that was one possible scenario. But they could also take a very sophisticated spacecraft that would just simply go into orbit around Mars, but the landers would go down and then come back again, similar to what the Apollo missions did.
Yeah.
They had something in orbit around the moon, but the landers went down and then came back. That's another scenario. But if they went down to Mars, they'd already find the the houses that we're going to live in, the base or whatever, already there, and the extra fuel and food already on the Martian surface. That's one scenario, one plan they could do. So the way you described it was probably very good.
So I got a very good there. The only words I left out what you came out was unmanned. That's what I couldn't even take them saying unmanned. But that's what I meant, you know, sending things up, landing them. And then the likes of you and I, you know, we're going and we land, but we go straight into that thing. Obviously with spacesuits on.
But the other thing I wanted to say is that I don't think it's going to happen even when Donald Trump is still president. It will. I think it will take longer than 4 years. That's his presidency. They could get there by the mid 2030s, possible. But it's a big technological feat. It is the equivalent of the 1960s when they went to the moon. They've got to put a lot of effort into it, a lot of time, employ a lot of people, and it will cost a lot of money.
Well, it's just like when Kennedy. This is all that I meant. When Kennedy came in, and he says we're going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade, and that's all that I meant with Trump. You know, when he said about Mars, because obviously the likes of Elon Musk and SpaceX has given him, I'm not saying given him a date, but he's given him the, you know, like the overview of what he means, what he intends to do, shall I say.
Well, the other point to make is that they could use the moon as a stepping stone to Mars. You know, they wouldn't have to launch from the Earth. They could use the moon as the launching point to Mars, do it that way. But again, it would just add on the costs. But I'm sure it will happen one day. I might not be here. I don't want to say anything about you, but I might not be here. But it'll probably happen one day.
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it? Can I just go on to the lovely people? I don't know where Anthony is tonight. I hope he's okay. Tony says, evening Frankie, evening Tony, and hello Gerard. Tony says,
hi Tony, evening Tony.
And the black and white boy, black and white. See, evening Frank, Gerard, and chat. Not lovely. And you never walk alone, family. Good evening, Frank and Gerard. Are you named after the great Stephen Gerrard?
No, I'm afraid I'm not. He's younger than me. Stephen Gerrard is younger than me.
But you know what? Say these are all football fans, and obviously, you know, they've got an interest. And the Liverpool video says, "Good evening, gents. I hope you're well. I had a question for Gerard. What do you make of SpaceX and Elon Musk with what he does in terms of space exploration?" And Owen Lee says, "Good evening, gentlemen. I wonder what I'll learn tonight." And that's lovely. That really is lovely. And Cody False 9 says, "Hey, I love your energy. Do you think football could ever be played on the moon?" That's all the golfers plays on the moon, Gerard.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Now, could you, for that Liverpool videos, what do you make of SpaceX and Elon Musk and what he does in terms of space exploration? Can you give a little synopsis on that, please?
He's made it relatively inexpensive. As I said to you at the beginning, NASA's Artemis moon rocket, the launch that we have had, the unmanned launch, that cost $3 billion from start to finish. and it's still being checked over now. Now, Elon Musk can launch a satellite into space, and it'll probably cost his company, or he's got an agreement with NASA to put things into space and also send crews to the International Space Station. They cost him $100 million now. In technological terms, that's very, very cheap, and he's developing engines and rockets, as I say, that can be used again and again. Some of them have been into space 18, 19, even 20 times, and they can be easily refurbished. The engines can be refurbished, and as you've seen, those starships are being caught by those launch arms. They catch the big launcher, the huge big launcher, which is bigger than the Saturn V moon rocket from the 1960s. So that's what Musk is doing. He's making space flight much more cheaper and much more attractive. And a lot of companies are going to his company to put things into space.
Well, I think that's remarkable what you've just said about Musk, because he thinks I like futuristic people. The likes of H.G. Wells, for example, and Jules Verne. I like those kind of visions that these have got. And he reminds me of these great people, to be honest.
Yes.
Because he looks to the future, Elon Musk. He just looks to the future. And he's so interested. Can I just... Yeah. I'll just... these comments here are aimed to you, to be honest. There's three of them. Right. And it's the Liverpool videos. Just air out these comments, please, Gerard.
Yeah, sure, certainly.
He says, hey, Gerard, are you also a Liverpool fan, or do you mainly study the planets in your free time? And Lucio Magic says, do you think satellites will be the most powerful thing in the future in terms of providing us internet and calling services? And the football flashback says, good evening, gentlemen. I hope you're well. Gerard, how did your passion for space begin?
Right. Well, let's answer those questions in order. You're going to hate me now when I tell you this.
I know what you're going to say, and the lads most probably know this as well. So I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. I'll be honest with your audience and you, Frank. I am a blue, so we'll leave it at that.
That's it. You're finished now. I'm joking.
I try and look at the night sky when I can, but I'm not as active as I used to be. But it's interesting that we're currently in a National Astronomy Week, which started last Saturday and ends next Sunday. And there's loads of astronomical events going all over the country. And it's because all the planets are on view in the night sky. Well, nearly all of them. We've got Saturn, Venus, Neptune, Uranus, Jupiter, and Mars all on view in the night sky. And after Wednesday this week, it looks as if the sky is going to be clear, so they should be all on view. And with the moon going in them, so that's going to be a great opportunity for people to study the planets. And can I just mention, Frank, that the Astronomical Society, they're going to hold a stargazing event at Court Hay Park on this Friday, the 7th of February, between 7 and 9 o'clock. And they'll have telescopes there. There'll be talks about astronomy and space flight, and also hot refreshments. And it's a free event, and everybody is welcome. If you want to know more about space and astronomy, then go to Court Hay Park on Friday. Everyone will be welcome.
Will you be able to look through the telescopes, yeah?
Yeah, there'll be members of the society who own telescopes are going to bring them to the event, and you'll have a look at whatever you can see. And it looks as if the weather's going to cooperate, so the planets will be on view, the moon, and galaxies. They'll be able to look at galaxies as well. And the Orion Nebula will be on view, where stars are born. That's a nebula light years away, but that's where stars are born, and you'll be able to look at that as well.
Can I ask you something? Like in the sky, I'm useless.
Yes.
Honestly, I haven't a clue where anything is. I only see the moon, and that's about it, and the sun.
Right. Okay.
Well, every time, a clear night,
Yes.
there are 3 stars shining bright, and I hope I can. If you look at me black thing there,
Yes.
one is there, and one is they're like this, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
3. Have you any idea what? I haven't a clue. I see them every time there's a clear night.
Does it look like a belt? A belt on like a uniform? Does it look like that? Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's the constellation of Orion. That's the belt of Orion you're looking at. Yeah.
I've been looking at that for years. I've never had a clue.
No, that's a prominent winter constellation, and it's you can see it. Well, it'll be on view as we speak tonight now. So it's not too early, and yet it's not too late. So you'll be able to see it. Something like 9-10 o'clock at night in the south, fairly high up in the sky. That's the constellation of Orion. And on either side of it is Jupiter's on one side, a very bright star, and on the other is Mars. Now, if it's fairly clear, Mars will actually look red to your eye. You won't need binoculars or a telescope. It'll look like a bright red star because it's fairly close to the Earth at the moment.
Wow. Do you know like Mars, right? Okay, Mars.
Yes.
Mars. Is that the only planet that, we can actually land on, if you know what I mean, and set up a base rather than other planets? Is Mars the only one?
Of the planets, it probably is. That would be it's still a hostile place to go to. As I say, you'll need all the support that you would do if you landed on the moon. But the other thing to consider, that some of the moons of the planets, you can land on them, like the moons of Jupiter, Titan that goes around Saturn. You might be able to land on those. So that the moons of the planets, they might not have atmospheres. I think Titan does have an atmosphere, but you'll be able to land on those. The outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, outwards, they're gaseous planets. So there is a surface, but it's far down below the cloud belts. So Mars is probably the best one to go to if you want to land on a planet.
No, I was going to mention about that planet, around going around Jupiter, that you could, land on most probably because it's got an atmosphere. Now, looking beyond that, especially with the Hubble, and they've got a new one out there now, haven't we, which goes deeper into space.
The James Webb telescope.
That's it.
The James
Are there
Webb
any
telescope.
planets out there that you've observed that is very similar to Earth, or am I going too far into
No. There's they call them exoplanets. That means that they're planets orbiting stars outside our solar system. But you've got to bear in mind that they are literally, light years away. There is a planet going around a star. The star is similar to our own sun, and the planet is what they call Earth-like. And I think I've mentioned this before. It's in the habitable zone, or the Goldilocks zone, i.e. it's not too cold and yet it's not too hot, and it's got water. Now the Hubble the James Webb telescope can actually detect water vapor in the planet's atmosphere even though it's light years away. And they have found one that's, they found a number that are really Earth-like. They're saying they're Earth-like. But can I just say to you that if we use today's rockets and satellite technology, it would take 400,000 years to get to that planet using today's technology. Not the technology you see in Star Trek or Star Wars.
No.
It's today's rocket. It would take about 400,000 years to get there. And the Voyager spacecraft that's traveling at something like 70,000 miles a second. That would take just as long. It would take hundreds of thousands of years to get to this exo Earth-like planet. So It's a long, long way away.
But what about Einstein? And he said about you can bend space.
Yeah,
so
but we don't have the technology to do that.
No, that's what I'm saying. No, what I meant to say, carry on by saying, will that exist or does it exist? I don't know.
Well, it's just that you're quite right. Theoretically, you could bend space so that you can reduce the distances that you go from one to another, and that's that in a way it's okay. It's science fiction, but that's what the USS Enterprise does in Star Trek. That use warp speed. It bends space so that the distances are cut a lot shorter, and they travel at sometimes 8 times the speed of light or whatever. But again, okay, it is fictional, but in theory, if you could bend or do that with physics, it's a possibility, yes, but we're not there yet. The technology is just not there yet.
So, okay, before I go on to the comments, because they're all relative to you, do you know I was going to mention about Einstein. So Einstein's right, but obviously, say like we're 1,000 years before we can bend space. So it is possible in the future that we can actually bend space so that we can get from A to B.
Yeah.
Like rather quick. Like it's like, shall we say, a stagecoach. Going back to the 1800s, 1700s, getting from Liverpool down to London, for example, and it used to take days. Whereas today you can get to London in 2 hours by those trains. So it's similar to that, isn't it? Really.
Think about it. The Wright brothers. That was was it 1903? And then we landed on the moon in 1969. That was a relatively short amount of time where technology, really advanced. It's fairly quickly. So in 60 years or even 100 years' time, it's quite possible that we could venture out into to get to these very far.
Jet engine, isn't it? Really, from the propeller to the jet. That makes it go faster anyway. Can I go on to these are wonderful comments. I'm just getting on here. Good evening, gentlemen, says Football Flashback. I hope you're well. Gerard, now I'll go through them because I want to know what he's actually said. Can you give me a quick answer before I go on to the other comments, please, Gerard? And he says, Gerard, how did your passion for space begin?
Well, it was obviously the Apollo moon landings. It was getting to the moon. It was Apollo 8 that started my interest, and from that, you look up at the night sky. You get a pair of binoculars and an astronomy book by who else but Sir Patrick Moore, and you go from there. And as they say, Frank, that's the rest is history. So that's where I got my passion from.
Do you know what though? I reckon that we've all got a passion. We've all got a passion, and the Liverpool video says, "Oh no, Gerard, do you watch all the Everton games?"
I don't see them all. I don't see them all live. I'm afraid now. To answer that question.
But it's just we've all got we grew up, didn't we? As you're either a blue or you're a red. Families have got blues and reds.
Yes.
It's whatever. I'm a red myself, as the lads know, and it's just a matter of your family, isn't it? You're either your dad or your mum or your grandparents or whatever. And
my son is a red, but he plays for Liverpool in the community football team. So how confused are we?
Exactly. It's like Stevie McMahon. Right, Stevie McMahon played for Everton, and I know his family, and his family are really, deep blues, and he was a big blue himself. Yet he played, years later he played for Liverpool. He played for Liverpool and was great for Liverpool. But I think it's like working, isn't it? It is work, obviously, but it's like I got seconded once, right, by a college. I really did. I got seconded. Would you come and work for us? So I said, yeah, okay. But I'm a very loyal person. But whoever I work for, I'm loyal to them. But
Right.
I always felt guilty by leaving the college that I was seconded from. Do you understand?
Yes.
But your loyalty is always there. That's all I mean about Liverpool and Everton Blues and all the fans. I'm just going to get off that now.
Okay.
This is Gary. I'll be talking about this later on. Okay, in the second half. I still can't get over Littlewood's coming down. I feel sick to the stomach. Why was it allowed? I'll be talking about that a little bit later on. Now, this question from Owen Lee. The belt of Orion matches up with the pyramids.
Well, that's actually fairly true because the Egyptians were excellent astronomers. Most of the tombs of the pharaohs, etc., were lined up with astronomical constellations in the sky, and one of the principal ones was, of course, the Orion constellation, which we were talking about before. They had a sun god, they had a moon god, and they relied on astronomical events in the sky to irrigate their crops and things, and they understood about the seasons. So they were excellent astronomers, to be honest, and we learned quite a bit. And they were doing this, they were learning from astronomy before even the Greeks were. So your questioner is probably very right.
How good were they? How good intellectually were they? Going back thousands of years ago.
Well, we all know. I mean, how the pyramids are literally thousands of years old, and yet they can fit the big blocks together that weigh, is it 60 or 70 tons each of the blocks, and they managed to build the pyramids the way they are and line them up with the sun setting and rising and the moon moving.
But it was the precision, wasn't it? Of lining them up and getting them in place. Then
that's right.
Putting them together. And to build a three-sided pyramid is very, very difficult.
Yeah,
I do know that, Michelle. even if I say so myself. I don't know what's strong or builder, by the way. I'll just go through these. Now, Black and White Boy. Thank you, Owen Lee. That's a cracking question. Made up. The Black and White Boy says, still got my 10-inch Dobsonian. I don't know what a Dobson. That's a telescope.
It's a telescope design.
And he says, can see nice
invented
detail
by a
on.
gentleman called John Dobson. Yeah. The Jupiter rotates every 10 hours, so that the cloud belts change within those 10 hours. So in today's winter nights, you can actually, if you can stay up all night, you can actually see one rotation of Jupiter over those 10 hours. And it's got the great red spot, of course, that's been going on for about 400 years or so. So a 10-inch Dobsonian, the 10-inch is the mirror size, the main mirror. And the Dobsonian telescopes they capture a lot of detail, yet they're very portable. You don't need much setting up, so it's an ideal telescope to have.
Do you know what? This has lost me, because these lads, they're all into this, to be honest. And they're all football fans, by the way. But anyway, Bill Clopper's statue, he says, hey, gentlemen, Gerard, can I just go through these
yes, certainly.
Comments, please? And then
Frank.
I'll just go straight through them. Thank you, Gerard. And Bill Clopper's statue, he says, Gerard, do you think there's another truly habitable planet for us Homo sapiens? And Liverpool Video says, I'll just answer this. Liverpool Video says, hey, Frank, how did you meet Gerard? Well, it wasn't me. It was Jason, the producer, and he asked guests to come on. And Gerard was asked, and he kindly said, yeah, and bang, we've had him on quite a number of times now. And you all love him, apparently. Lucio Magic, I love watching films. Do you guys have a favourite film that has space and planets involved, like the best documentary ever made? I'm going to ask Gerard something, and then I'm going to carry on with the but think about this. I think that's a very good question. Gerard, I've just only last week or the week before, I watched a film. I don't know how many years old it is, say in the last 10 years, for example. And it's called The Last Days on Mars. Okay, I'll get back to that. And I'll just go through these. When we get to quantum level, our laws of physics, says Owen Lee, cease to exist. And you never walk alone, says. Hang on, Frank. You are so inspirational with your channel. I love how you not only talk about Liverpool, but other things too that you're curious about, and you open up those worlds for us. Oh, thank you. That's a wonderful comment. That.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I think, can you answer that question? Yeah, I'm dying for you to.
Could you remind me the question, please? Sorry.
Yeah. I'm gonna these two questions, right? This one here, and the next one, so you'll easily understand what I'm saying anyway. I love watching films. Do you guys have a favourite film that has space and planets involved, like the best documentary ever made? And Owen Lee says, when we get to quantum level, our laws of physics cease to exist. Can you answer those two questions if possible?
All right. Well, the quantum.
Get myself a drink.
Okay. The quantum level, that's the atomic level, I think. There are certain laws of physics that still go on, but it's the atomic level where atoms collide and things, and sizes and dimensions, they all fall into place. But you Um, it can extend to how big the universe is and how molecules form. You know, oxygen, the gases, oxygen, hydrogen, because it's not just the Earth that has the gases that we know all too well, like oxygen, hydrogen, helium. Water is out in space as well. Some of the places in the solar system that's got ice, you can have different temperatures, of course. So it's all to do with the quantum level of things in physics, thermodynamics, that kind of thing. To answer the question about my favorite film, the one that was not too recently released was the Martian, where about the astronaut who gets stranded on Mars and the different attempts to try and rescue him. NASA was very much involved in the advice about that, and the way the mission goes on and the astronauts are on Mars. That's, as I was talking to Frank about at the beginning of tonight, that's one scenario that they're planning to send both men and women to Mars to explore and to see if there's any minerals that can be brought back or even establish a permanent habitable base. So I did enjoy that film. It's called The Martian. I think you can get it on some of the...
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I've seen it myself.
Right.
And there's Anthony, can I just explain to you, Anthony, I'm awfully sorry. I just seen the message there that you're on because you were down below and I couldn't see you. I'm awfully sorry.
Not to apologize. I have so enjoyed listening to you guys talking. I too am fascinated with the idea that the ancient Egyptians, Greeks, Romans were students of the stars and the sky, and everything kind of fits a pattern. And we like to think that we, the modern age, have invented everything. Of course, we haven't. So no apologies, Frank. I've loved listening.
No, it's just these wonderful comments as well. It really is, and you never walk alone. Just let me go through some of these. It's my dream to have a channel one day like you that brings communities together like this. It's beautiful. Oh, thank you.
Thank
the
you.
Redbird. Evening, gents. So, and Scouse Red, there is a bit of controversial stuff here. Scouse Red says, sorry, Gerard, but I believe the moon landings were a hoax, as hinted at in the James Bond film Diamonds Are Forever.
I'm sorry. I have to say, I'm not being rude, but I always get asked this question a lot. And the thing is that the radio signals that the astronauts sent back from the lunar surface to the Earth, there was a Doppler effect, and that was measured. You can't hoax that at all. The communication was on the lunar surface. They photographed the landing sites where the astronauts went to, all the things they went to. I'm sorry, they weren't hoaxed. They actually took place.
It's very hard, isn't it, really, to try to explain. It's like the flat earthers.
Yes.
Flat earthers still think that the earth is flat.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything about Scouse Red saying, but I believe the moon. He's not saying the moon was a hoax. He's saying, I believe the moon's a hoax as hinted in the James Bond film Diamonds Are Forever. So it's a hint. And we know that they say that Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest directors, by the way, he had this big film set, and he had this, and he had that. The thing is, it's so easy to find out. If they never went up, if Buzz Aldrin and the other fellow didn't go up in 1969 to land on the moon, right? and people would say it's a hoax because I seen, I seen Buzz Aldrin here next to me. He was in a bar or he was in somewhere else on holiday
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
How could he land on the moon? It's so easily done. It really is.
Yeah.
So we've got to take things, in my opinion, and see
Oh,
all
yes.
this millions and millions of dollars spent on that. At NASA, when you look at NASA and all those people working for NASA, the rocket itself, everything, even going out, and see, one of the greatest things, I'm sorry to babble on here, one of the greatest things is when you mentioned, Gerard, when we landed on the moon, and you had the other thing going around,
They
going
come
around.
out. Yeah.
Come up. And when you see that, and you see the little spacecraft that Buzz Aldrin was in, and the other fella,
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong, thank you.
Yeah.
Neil Armstrong was in, and he went from there. You see it going up. That's one of the greatest things I've seen in space, in real-time space, if you know what I mean.
The only other point I wanted to make was that there was 3 million workers directly involved in the moon landings in the 1960s. They were directly involved. They were the rocket builders. They were the engineers. But indirectly, the people who supplied the food to the space centers and the security staff, there was estimated to be 20 million of those people indirectly associated with the moon landings. So how do you make sure those people, don't, that if it's a hoax, how do you keep them on board with a hoax like that? It's not, yeah. And I just wanted to make one remark about flat earthers. They have a website and it says it's got a global membership. So that's all I want to say about that, really.
There you go, absolutely.
Both worlds. And it gets harder today with today's technology because AI is not a new thing. It's been out for a while. But now we've got so many people who, if they don't want to see or hear the truth, they change it. It's altered.
Yes.
I mean, Jason sends us some fascinating stuff to do with history with on the show. And there's so many photographs on history sites that never existed. But because of AI, you can transpose buildings and people. Yeah. And I'm sure the same thing has happened with certainly the moon landing, but such stuff for many, many years. I was fascinated today, bearing in mind the chaos that the Emperor of America is causing, that Canada have cancelled a £2 million investment in Musk's latest Starlink Star Trip thing. Whether or not that will affect him, don't know.
But see, you do get skeptics. It's like what the Redbird says here. Technology can be doctored, even way back, just saying. But then again, I'm a born skeptic. I'm a skeptic. I think everybody, no matter how you look at things, we are skeptical. No matter what, we just don't take the truth or what we see at face value. We do question things. And that's why the human beings, we actually question, hey, what's going on? What is that? Do I believe that? Does my eyes see the truth here? Do I listen to the truth, or is it all false, or is it fake, or whatever? So we do question. We do question our existence in other ways as well.
But going back to that 1969, it was lovely to hear Gerard talking before about what got him immediately hooked in space. I mean, me too, as a youngster, and so many millions of people were absolutely blown away by what we were getting reports of. We sat in front of TVs, and then we read all we could on it, which sadly there wasn't that much in the education system at that time to lead us on. But I like to think that when something inspires the human race, then we go for it, we follow it.
Yeah.
You know.
That's good philosophy, that, because you're 100% right, and we do follow it. The Liverpool Jabby says, I think this is a cracking question. Hey, gents, I'm going to start with you, Gerard, then you, Anthony. Hey, gents, good evening. I have a question for all of you. What's the big space discovery you'd like to see in your lifetime? Gerard.
Well, I suppose, Frank Anthony, I think that the one I would like to see is that if they do find life, whether it be a germ or something very simple, living on another celestial body within our solar system. I'm not saying in the galaxy or anything, but in our solar system, like the possibility of the moon of Jupiter called Europa that might have an ocean below its ice shelves. There's a possibility that there could be primitive life under there. So it would be great if we could send a spacecraft to examine Europa in detail, because it's got all it's very cold, yes, but it's got liquid water, which is that's the signature, that's the blue touch paper for life. So any form of simple life, I'm not saying humanoids with 2 arms, 2 legs, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is very simple life, like amoeba, something like that, living in the ocean. And we can have life in very cold conditions on this planet, so why not on Europa?
Well, can I suggest something for you? Can I suggest something, Gerard? And what it is, I mentioned a film before. Watch The Last Days on Mars.
Okay.
Get it turned up and watch it.
Right.
If that's okay with you.
Okay.
What about you, Anthony? What's your, would you like to see something about space discovery in your lifetime? What would you like to see?
It's again, without sounding too cynical, I don't think we're going to see anything major in our lifetime, other than Gerard has said about maybe there's a trace of existence on other planets. But I've long given up the concept of, I hope that planet is habitable so we can all go there. I don't think the human race can look after what they've got, never mind the thought of messing something else up. But it would be a fascinating experience to see what does live, if anything, on other planets and how they live.
Well, I know that my one is this. In my lifetime, which I very much don't now, is the explorer that went out, Voyager, that went out in 74, was it, Gerard?
73, 74, yeah.
So I'd like to see if a signal comes back from that.
Yeah.
So that they go, there is something up there. Because it's gone out of our solar system, hasn't it, I think?
Yeah, they can keep in communication with it, but it's just sending a sort of beam, but I think it's going to, as I say, take thousands of years to get to a star close to in the constellation of Leo. That's where it's going out to. But it is
Wow.
it is that they're keeping a radio contact with it, and it's sending back some information about the environment it's in. And I think a radio signal traveling at the speed of light takes something like 30 hours to get to the spacecraft, and of course to come back again it's another 30 hours. So that's how far away it is.
Wow.
And that's a radio signal traveling at the speed of light.
That's absolutely amazing. You know, because we look at things, don't we? And as I said, I like visionaries, I really do. And once Claxton, he decided to print words on a book, you know, and things like that, so we can read.
Yeah.
And once photographs came about, and we could see, you know, if you've never seen like a park, say down in London, I'm talking about here, you know, we're sitting here in 1872 or something like that, and someone mentions Hyde Park, and you go, I wonder what that's like. Then all of a sudden a photograph appears. That's what it's like. Well, it's like today. It's incredible about how technology is overtaken. I think one of the lads mentioned it about technology and what we're talking here now. We're actually talking here. Yes, I've had people from New Zealand on, Australia on, America, Canada. I've had them on, and the technology is immense. And you mentioned, Gerard, before you go, because I'm going to a break in the moment, and I'm awfully sorry. I mentioned about the you know, that telescope, and you mentioned a new one. What kind of information is that sending us?
The James Webb telescope.
James Webb,
Frank, what I wanted to mention to make a point is, you remember the Luminae brothers showed one of the early films of a railway, railway engine coming into a station, and the audience thought it was coming out of the screen. They all scattered and ran out of the tent where the film was being produced. They actually physically thought it was coming out of the screen at them. So that's an idea of how, you know, how we take moving pictures and videos just for granted these days. But it's just over 100 years since that was happening. So it is amazing that the technology has come about and advanced in a relatively short amount of time to get where we are today. So in another 100 years, God knows where we're going to be in space flight and things, and the way we travel around. We could all have hover cars. Star Trek, they had portable communication devices, if you remember, in the 1960s, and now we've all got one in our pockets, you know. So there we are.
Yeah.
Just one last question before I go. The Chinese, right? I love technology. Not that I can, not that I'm brilliant at it. I can't even say. I could just about turn this on. They've got a car. It's like a big van, but it's beautiful, well shaped. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's driving along. And this is real. It's not fiction. It's not science fiction. And all of a sudden it stops. The back opens, and this thing comes out. And two people can jump in it. And it's a drone, and it goes up. And you can fly for like 3/4 of an hour around. It's absolutely incredible. And the Chinese have said that within the next 10 years, that there'll be flying cars, and that's one of them, to be honest.
Oh, I can quite well imagine. Yeah. Well, I think it's very true. It's very true. As I say, between the Wright brothers and the Apollo moon landings, what, 60 odd years, 70 odd years. It's a short amount of time, really, in technology terms.
And what we haven't mentioned is the Mir space station that the Russians built.
Well, it's been taken over by, of course, the International Space Station now.
But you know what I mean.
And the Americans had Skylab in the after the Apollo missions finished, but that didn't last very long. Yeah. No, but I think it's fantastic. Well, listen, Gerard, thank you so much. And I just want to say to the people out there, thank you for all the wonderful questions to Gerard. Yeah,
but if you stay with me until the next hour, you're going to enjoy it. You really are. So, Gerard, thank you so much.
Okay, Frank. Tony, thank you.
And
all right.
I'll see you all after the break. Thank you.
We've taken the short journey from the man in the pyramid to the man in the tunnels, the mole of Edgehill. After the Napoleonic Wars of 1815, there were many British soldiers unemployed. Also, there were French prisoners of war who were incarcerated in Liverpool and needed to get back home, but unfortunately, they had no money. One man came to their rescue. This man, Joseph Williamson, the mole of Edgehill. You've all heard of a money pit. This is the ultimate money pit. The French and British soldiers who were once bitter enemies were now working side by side. What was the purpose of these tunnels? Was it for canals? Was it for the railway system? Were they for drainage? No, they were plain follies. After 200 years, the pick marks are still visible today after all the hard work by the soldiers just to get back to France. Joseph loved his wife that much that he had a tunnel specially dug from his house in Mason Street up to the church in St. Mary's so that if it rained, she wouldn't get wet. And it became the most expensive umbrella in the world. Joseph Williamson spent the equivalent of £26 million of his own money so that soldiers could go back home to France and so that he could live underground just like the mole. We've just been in an enclosed space, but you don't realise the vastness of the tunnels. Just have a look at this. His tunnels did set the precedent for the forthcoming railway system when the engineers used his idea of tunnels to get from A to B. The tunnels are still being excavated even today, and some of the finds are being extraordinary. The likes of crockery like this, wonderful old bottles like this, But one of the finds is this. Just take a look at it. And it's an old kiddie's car. It could even be yours. And looking at it, I think it's ran out of its MOT. The myth surrounding Joseph Williamson digging all the tunnels around Liverpool is a myth, because Joseph Williamson dug the tunnels here in Edge Hill, where he lived, and only here.
Wow, what an
The whole of Edge Hill. Unbelievable, isn't it? Really.
mind. What a man.
Well, the thing is, you see, it's strange, really, because, well, not strange, I think it's misogynist, shall we say. When he came to Liverpool, he was only a kid here, from Runcorn, and he gets a job in this warehouse. And then he married the daughter of the owner of the warehouse. He only had one child, and that was the girl. And as soon as he married her, all the business and everything else went to him. So it was, you know, if you were a girl, you never held on to anything. It's just like, say, like the Bronte sisters.
Yeah.
And, you know, because they knew if they married, they'd have nothing. They wouldn't have any wealth. It'll be the husband's wealth. Like Jane Austen. Jane Austen never married. Yeah. And so she kept her wealth. And that's the way it was with women in those days. And we go on today, don't we, about, women, you know, in the Muslim society, the second class. We would always say, you know, women in this country and everywhere else globally were all second class, if you know what I mean. But that's history for you. But anyway, David Owens, hiya David, he says they have already developed unmanned ships sailing in the Baltic Sea, and self-drive cars have been tested on roads. And that's true, it has. And, you know, I don't know. I really don't know about self-drive cars. I'd be afraid to go in, to be honest.
Yeah.
Could you imagine getting in it with my daughter Francine and say, it's a self-drive? You start driving. I'm sorry. And the Redbird says, your breaks are always fascinating and informative. Right, thank you, Redbird. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Listen, what I want to show is this. I really want to show this. And there it is. Just bear with me on this. Just bear with me. I hope I can do this. I'm useless. Absolutely useless. Let's see. And it is, where am I? Oh, it's here. Yeah, that's it. Oh, thank God for that. Can you see that? Can you see where my little thing is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Let's see. Right.
Wow.
That's St. John's Gardens, right? That's St. John's Church. That's St. John's Church. That was just a cemetery. And there are 2,000 French prisoners of war still buried there, you know, from the Napoleonic Wars. Yeah. And someone asked me what this was here. Right here. Someone asked. Well, this little thing here, that is the old Haymarket. And right there is the Mersey Tunnel. The Mersey Tunnel is there today, right there, right there. Now, the point I'm making is that the Anglican Cathedral, what they wanted to do, they wanted to build it there, right there. That's where they wanted to build it, right there. And what they said was, we can't do that because it'll look out of place with the likes of these. Do you see this St. George's Hall?
Yeah.
And what goes up there as well, this way. You know, let's do it. And what goes up there, you can actually see it there.
Yeah.
Is all the let's just drag us along. Neoclassical buildings, all the neoclassical buildings.
Yeah.
And then they said it'll look out of place, the Anglican. So where you've got the Anglican Cathedral today, that wasn't earmarked for there. That wasn't earmarked. Also, what wasn't earmarked for Hope Street either was the Catholic Cathedral. So that was another site that was proposed. So they decided, well, that's no good there. Around the Everton Valley, you know, down there. So they said, there won't be any good there. So, unbeknown to both parties, the two cathedrals was built at the ends of Oak Street. And it's the only street in the entire world that has a cathedral, two cathedrals, one at each end. It's incredible what the city achieved, but also what we've lost.
Yeah.
And we've lost, as you know, Anthony, the overhead railway, which was to me a sacrilege in every possible way. And you see this here, all this here,
Yeah.
Lime Street Station. Now that expansion, it's all glass, and it was the only one of its kind in the world when it was built, and it was the biggest glass structure in the whole of the world that spanned all this.
Wow.
The only glass structure in the whole of the world. It was the biggest of its kind in the world. And Lime Street Station, as we see today, where it built on from there, and all the wonderful, beautiful arches that was built that we can see today. And it was the very first Romanesque station in the world, the very first. And everybody started to copy Lime Street Station's frontage, you know, Romanesque. That's why when you go down to London or anywhere else and you see these wonderful Victorian things, and it's only through Liverpool that they built it.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating.
Many things.
It is. I just want to get onto something here. I hope I'm going in the right place. I should be. Let's see. Oh, where am I? Let's see. Excuse me, honest. I'm sorry about this. I just want to try and I'm lost. Absolutely lost, unfortunately. Absolutely lost. That's St. Luke's Church. You see this? That's St. Luke's, the bombed out church. I'm trying to find somewhere, unfortunately. I can't get it. Well, there up here, that's Central Station. Look at that. It's incredible. And it's very similar to Lime Street Station, you know, with the glass roof.
Yeah.
Very similar indeed. I just hope I can get this. I just hope I can get it because it's fascinating. It really is fascinating. Where am I? No, I won't be able to get it. And I was going to get onto Hope Street, and I can't get onto Hope Street, unfortunately, because I was going to tell you about a body snatcher. I was going to tell you about a body snatcher who came down from Edinburgh because Birkenhead had been hanged. And this fella came down. There was a Reverend Clark who lived in Hope Street, and he had some properties. And he had to go to him, this fella. And he said, have you got any properties to let? And he said, yeah. He said, yeah, there's one here. Now, the property in Hope Street is just about 30 yards away from what we know today as the Everyman Theatre. On that side, by the way, as well, just about 30 yards down. And that's where he acquired this place to rent. And one day, he was coming back from town, and he looked down and he seen these police, and he also seen, crowds around his property that he rented. So he got off because he knew what he found. He knew exactly what they found in the cellar. And what it was bodies all wrapped up in calico. And there was some that was actually in barrels because he pickled them and he sent them up via, the Mersey up to Glasgow so they could be transported then over to Edinburgh. And he was Liverpool's very own body snatcher, just like Bacon there. It's incredible, isn't it? Like what's gone on in this city.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Body snatcher, living in Oak Street. But he wasn't a scouter, he was a lovely jock.
That was partly attached to the workhouse as well.
Sorry?
Was it his work partly attached to the workhouse?
Yeah, and there was quite a few murders. People never returning back to the workhouse, and they just thought that, they absconded because they were sent. That's what the definition of a workhouse was: work, and you were housed. That's what it was: work, and you were housed. But you weren't paid. You were not paid. You just worked for your shelter and a bit of food. That's what a workhouse was like. It was very harsh. It was very strict. It was everything. So, and the only day you had off, if you can call it a day, I think it was like half a day, was a Sunday. But you had to go to like a service or whatever on that day, then went to work. So the regime in workhouses was horrendous. Even Dickens said, I'd rather spend a lifetime at Newgate than a week in a workhouse. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it was, workhouses. Anyway, so what you've got the likes of the people in the workhouse. Some people, they just thought that they'd absconded, after the day's work, or even if they went to work and they just absconded. And so they took no notice. But unfortunately, they ended up being murdered. And most probably by this fella who pickled them and sent them up to Edinburgh.
My God.
It's incredible, isn't it, really? About.
There's so much in that area.
Sorry?
So much has happened within that area and down Rodney Street, isn't it? There's so much history just in that spot.
Exactly. Mark Simon says Lime Street is the first grand terminus station with the largest unsupported railway arch to this day. Yes, just been speaking about it, Mark. Marcus lives in Gibraltar, and I've been saying to him, give Gibraltar back to the Spanish. And Owen Lee says, where can you buy that picture, please, Frank? It's very hard, to be honest. I don't know. I acquired it many years ago, and who actually did it was a Frenchman in a balloon. He went up in a balloon in 1885, and he drew what you actually see today. Yeah, this is the full map. Let's see.
Jason, put a link up.
This is the full map. That's the full map. And I'll show you something here. Let's see where I am. Let's see where I am. Yeah, look. Bird's eye view of Liverpool as seen from a balloon in 1885. And it was a Frenchman. It was a Frenchman. Owen. It was a Frenchman. Now I'm going to show you something here. Let's see. Let's see. Bear with me with this. Blimey. And it's that. And this was one of the iconic buildings of all time. And it's this here. And it's the Custom House.
Yeah.
And the Custom House, they said it was destroyed during the May Blitz. You know, when they were bombing the docks during the Second World War, the Luftwaffe. And unfortunately, they pulled it down. Yes, it could have easily have been saved. It was a beautiful, beautiful building. It was the 5th Custom House of Liverpool. And it was pulled down in 1948 because the Americans said, we'll have it. So they said, oh, will you? Yeah, okay. So they started to take it down brick by brick. And unfortunately, the Americans backed out and it was knocked down. And that's the sad indictment what I said about things that we've lost. I've always said this in the past. And what we've got here next to it, imagine this. Here, that's the Sailor's Home. The Sailor's Home. So you had this built in 1828. This beautiful building that they pulled down. And this was built in 1841. 1841. And they pulled that down in 1974. 1974, and they put nothing on the site of it. What's on the site of it today is the John Lewis department store. And on that site is Chivas Park. And that's the sad thing about everything with Liverpool, what they did. Imagine that there today, this beautiful, beautiful building. Absolutely. And it was the same stone, Anthony, as St. George's Hall. The same stone. So it would have been, imagine that facing the Albert Dock.
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely. That's a sad thing. You can't imagine it today being a viable, beautiful building.
Oh.
Palace.
Exactly. And it's so sad the way we destroyed things. And this church here, yeah, right. The fella who built this, the fella who actually built the custom house,
Yeah.
John Foster Jr., right. Now, I'm going to say something here. This St. George's Church was actually built by Thomas Steers, who built the first wet dock in the entire world. He built it. He was a Dutchman. Thomas Steers, his name was, but we anglicised his name to Thomas Steers. Point is, 100 years later, because this was built in this was built in 1724. So 100 years later, the fella who built that, John Foster Jr., went to the St. George's Church because people were saying, oh, it seems unsafe or whatever. So he went and he solidified it, if I can use that terminology. He solidified it and made it more safer. And we pulled that down to make way for Victoria's monument. It's just, it shows you what we in this city and the city planners were like during the 1800s, right through the 1800s and coming into the 20th century, from the 19th century into the 20th century, when we started to pull these wonderful, beautiful things down. And it's a crying shame. It really is a crying shame. And when you look here, just bear with me. And this here. Did you know that Liverpool have more dome buildings than anywhere else? No. Anthony?
No.
Yeah, more dome buildings. Look at all those there. Look. Lots of dome buildings. And this is the town hall.
Yeah.
This is the town hall here. But look at the dome buildings next to it. We pull that down.
Wow.
Next door to it, we pull that down. Look at that beautiful piece of architecture. This we pull down too. This we pulled down. It was incredible what we pulled down. But this particular thing here, this went from down there, right across, down there, right behind all this, because that should be over there. That's with them. And it's what you call exchange flags. Now, exchange flags, again, it was absolutely wonderful. But we decided to pull down John Foster Senior's design. You've seen John Foster Jr.'s design of the custom house, the son. Well, he designed, and Dad designed exchange flags. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful buildings.
Yeah.
Incredible building right around, and we pulled them down. Someone said, when I had a group of people with me, I showed them pictures of, anyway. They said, was it bombed? I said, no, it wasn't bombed. I said, they pulled it down in 1954. 1954. And built those white buildings to coincide with Martin's Bank building, to coincide with that. But they pulled down those beautiful buildings, which is a crying shame.
Oh, just so.
It is though, isn't it? I want to show some pictures here anyway. Just bear with me with this. Hang on. Where am I? I've got to drag now. Right. I want to show some pictures here. Look at this one. Look at that. Now, that's the birthplace. That was an inn. It was actually an actual inn where William Roscoe was born.
Wow.
And do you know what stands on the site of that now? The Everyman Theatre. That's the corner. You know, the medical centre, which is next door to it. That's the exact place. Because that's Hope Street.
Wow.
Where the two ladies are standing and that fella to the left.
Yeah.
That's Mount Pleasant. And where that lady is in the background, that's Hope Street.
Wow.
And that's where William Roscoe was actually born in that particular thing. Incredible, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, remember when I was talking about the body snatcher? Well, he only lived, say, where that lady is. He only lived there, if you know what I mean. It's incredible. Incredible. You know, Hope Street. It's got a great history. And do you know what how Hope Street was named, by the way?
No.
It was named after a fellow by the name of Hope who owned a windmill. He was a miller. And millers were very, you know, they were very rich people, millers.
Yeah.
Because they changed out the flour, didn't they, with the mills? They changed out the flour, and you can't live without flour.
No.
Bread, everything, you see. So that was him. That's so they named it Hope, after Hope, Mr. Hope, Hope Street.
Which is
and look at that. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
The main Bridewell, and that was in 1850. Liverpool, Exchange Passage North, South Chapel Street. It's incredible, isn't it? But mind you, that is a Bridewell, by the way.
Yeah.
A jail. That's the jail. And I would guess who built that. You know, when you go along Lime Street and you do a little right, do you know where the Rose and Crown is?
Yes, been there many times, yeah.
That's where that is. That's facing it.
That's brilliant.
And do you know who built that?
I think that it's wonderful that it's still there. It's wonderful. Yeah. Crown and that little area is like untouched by time, which is...
But the flats now.
Yeah.
The flats now.
I'd knock back one of them if they said you're going to go in one of those.
But you know what? I'll give you a little story. The mates, I was with all my mates. Only a young fella, 19, 20, something like that. And we were all out on New Year's Eve. And so we came from Ty Barnsley. We used to go to a pub up there. And we were going into Lime Street. And me and my mate, a lad name's no longer with us now, Mugger Smith, Georgie Smith. We were walking out and we were bursting. So anyway, it was pitch black. The lads kept on going, and so we decided to have a pee. And all of a sudden, the Black Mariah came, yanked us both in, yanked us in. And we said, no one could see it. Anyway, he brought us to Cheapside there. And we went in. And he was horrible, this fella, you know, who dragged us in. Anyway, he got off. And the desk sergeant, he was talking to us. And he said, where'd you come from? We said, oh, Jerry Crescent. And he said, the good people there, he said, because I was stationed up in Rose Hill. I said, oh, yeah, which was by us.
Yeah.
And he said, they're nice people. Anyway, we thought we were going in a cell. I was sitting there like two dumps. And honestly, at 20 past 12, because we were only sitting on a bench. At 20 past 12, he said, go on, lads, go and enjoy yourself. Happy New Year. And he let us go. He let us go. And before, we went to our mates because we was all going to a party later on. And it was wonderful, for that sergeant on the desk to let us go.
Yeah.
Me and my mate.
What a memory of what a historic place.
Yeah. But you know about the French prisoners of war built that from the Napoleonic Wars.
Wow. Excuse me.
You're okay?
Yeah. Don't know where that's coming from. Colder weather.
And look at this. This was the Gorry warehouse. These here.
Yeah.
The Gorry warehouse. Right on the dock. Again, it was bombed in the May Blitz. Part of it, that is. And we pulled it down. Now, the Gorry was named after a fortress in East Senegal called the Gorry. It's a Portuguese name. Don't know what it means, but it's called the Gorry, nevertheless. So they named it after the Gorry in East Senegal. They just named it. And it was built in 1797. Now, this is where the myth about slaves were in the Gorry. And it wasn't that Gorry. It was the Gorry in East Senegal chained up. In East Senegal. That's where they were. Not the Gorry here in Liverpool.
It looks the same as the Albert Dock, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Can I just mention here? Mark Simons, he says, permission has been given to build an LGBTQ hotel in the fruit market on Dale Street. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
I know that there's...
I didn't know that. That's and Mark carries on by saying the Bridewells was where Frankie Goes to Hollywood had their practice rooms, the back in the late set. Well, I know Nasha well. Yeah, and he was telling me about the Bridewell. But it's not that Bridewell. It was the Bridewell down in Campbell Square.
Yeah. Because we used to rehearse there ourselves.
Krieger says, is that lettuce, grapes, is that bananas, tangies, and quavers? What's that? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, look. Frank, some Scouse fella was on the news saying he bought one of the Ripper victims' clothes that he has Kosminski's DNA. What's it? Bollocks. That's what I think, Mark. I'm sorry, but that's the way. Kaminsky, yeah, he lived in he was an American and he was an artist and he lived over in New Brighton. But he was only here, he was an actor. And that's where he has his rooms. But it's a load of bollocks, that, to be honest. If you're thinking he's the Ripper. Oh, right, Stringer, sorry. Is that lettuce, grapes, bananas, tangerines, and quavers? LGBT. I like it.
Too quick for us. We're still in space.
Yeah. Look at that. That's a crack at that. 1890. Look at that. Look at that. Obviously, it's been colorized. But isn't that fantastic?
Just
That's
amazing.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
That's Liverpool. And when you think, like I can see it from where I am, when you're at Commutation Row, and you had those little pubs inside Commutation Row,
Yeah.
what was there also was Ruston's first blind school ever in the world. He felt so sorry for the blind people.
Yeah.
And he just opens up this building, and he gave them work to do. And that was, like baskets and things like that, Anthony.
Yeah.
Making baskets and whatever.
Yeah.
He gave them work. And lots of blind was from wars as well.
Yeah.
War. And also sailors who, I forget what you call it, but they had this worm, some sort of worm that got through to them if they were around Africa way. And it made them blind.
Wow.
Some worm went in the heel or the Achilles of your feet. And it just found its way up wherever it went and blinded you. Forget what you call them. Forget what you call these worms. So they had, to earn money because people just left them. It was terrible what was going on.
Yeah. And it still is now if you're American.
Yeah. And I've heard of these. Loads of people have been putting up loads of films and photos of Liverpool in the 1800s on Facebook. Yeah, well, that's what they tend to do. But really, it's like, I'll just go back a minute. Let me go back a minute.
That reminds me of the Lumiere Brothers film on Lime Street. That sense of busyness.
Yeah. See, it's the likes of this.
Yeah.
Trigger. It's all right putting things up, but they also put what other people have written about it. Some's wrong, but if you get the same people and you put that up, and you didn't put that little thing at the bottom, they'd never have a clue what it is.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't give you a background of it. What was it built for? Why? Who built it? They wouldn't know. They wouldn't know.
Yeah.
So it's okay putting them up and whatever. But I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
And you know what, Anthony? What's there is a tram. We had the blueprint of a tram, and we're the only major city that hasn't got a tram because a certain group of people that call themselves politicians effed everything up when we were supposed to incorporate a tram system in the city.
Yeah.
And they just messed it up. So we ended up with no tram system.
Yeah. Well, I know they gave section of it, didn't they, to over the water, Birkenhead, to test it, and it works fantastic, and it still works fantastic. And no,
Yeah.
we could have had it here. Man,
Exactly. You know, that's the crying shame about our particular city and what we missed out on. But also, it just sickens me every time I think about it. And, you know, I've mentioned this loads of times and I'll keep on mentioning it. We pulled down the overhead railway, the first of its kind in the world. We pulled it down. We decided to pull it down in 1957. 1957, we pulled it down. Because we had the great vision. This is our planners, our wonderful council, saying buses is the future. That's what they said. Fucking pull that down. More to it than that, though. There was more to it than that. A bit of corruption. And Man Island, Nova Scotia corner. Isn't that brilliant? 1896.
That's never seen that photo. Wonderful.
Nova Scotia, New Scotland. And the fella who founded the likes of Nova Scotia was a Genoese by the name of Giovanni Cabato. And Giovanni Cabato, see, when Columbus, you know, another Genoese, by the way, Italian, founded more or less America, Columbus, you know, the West Indies and that. We got a bit jealous, so Henry VII, he sent for this other Genoese. He said, oh, this fella's good, you know, he's an explorer. So we sent for him, Giovanni Cabato. So he said, go out and find us something. So we went and he found in Canada, Nova Scotia.
Wow.
He founded that. And when he come back, he said, I found it. He said, oh, call it Nova Scotia. And he said, well, all right, and call yourself John Cabot. We have to anglicise your name. So Nova Scotia was founded by John Cabot. In other words, an Italian by the name of Giovanni Cabato. And Man Island. And what's Man Island named after?
I got a little bit of history about this. I don't know if it's factual or whatever. It stems from what I read, stems from the early 30s. And Man Island was a strip that went into the river, but it was named after a guy who worked on that strip, made canes or belts.
Yeah, what it was Thomas Mann. And what it was, he was homeless, and he had a little shack, and his name was Mann, and he had a little shack, and to earn money, do you know, dockers and even sailors, he used to sharpen like hooks, and also knives.
Yeah.
And knives. He used to sharpen them for the sailors, for the dockers,
Like
and everybody else that needed anything sharpened.
Yeah.
And that's how he made his money. So they just decided to call that, you know, with the shack, Man Island.
Because he was kind of the only business, wasn't he? Other than
he was the only business.
A dodgy boozer on the site that you didn't really want to go into unless you wanted a crash on the back of the head. And that was, he was the only one, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Wow.
I just want to see this. Just a couple here. Trigger series. Don't forget, Frank, we've always been awful and held back by the government all the time. We've been held back. We gave everything to the world, us. And I mean everything. Yes, you know, there was more millionaires living in Liverpool, you know, during the 19th century than anywhere else in the world. More millionaires here around the 1840s. That's why in 1846 we built our own Bank of England. That's still there today in Castle Street. Well, the building is still there in Castle Street today. So anyway, that's by the by. And we were held back all the time, especially during the 20th century. I always remember my Uncle Ronnie saying to me, I was the historical consultant for Liverpool One, and he said, Francis, he said, this should have been built right after the war, 60 years ago, not now. I said, I know, and we're only getting it now. But it wasn't even through the government, it was through the Duke of Westminster, when he put up the money to build what we have today in Liverpool One. But it was shocking, you know, we've always been held back by the government.
Yeah.
And Mark Simon says, I bet if you investigate enough, you will find Liverpool councillors in scrap merchants' pocket. The thing is, lots of them during the demolished, while they were demolishing the overhead railway, they were involved in scrap. That's right. Tell you what, let's pull it down. It would have cost £2 million to refix it because it was bombed, but it was still going. We fixed it, and it was still going right through the war, right up to the 1950s, mid-1950s, still going. And yet he said, oh, it's going to cost £2 million. I tell you what, let's pull it down. Shocking. Shocking what we do. I always call it political criminality, vandalism on a huge scale.
Yeah. Yeah, totally in agreement.
Shocking. Look at that. Look at that. That's it. Little kitchen that came up. You know, your country needs you, you know. And respects Liverpool Pals Regiment on Lime Street. The Liverpool Pals. Funnily enough, on the 1st of July 1916, 99% of the Pals were wiped out at the first Battle of Ypres. 1916, the 1st of July, wiped out. And it was Lord Derby who said, let's make a Pals battalion.
Yeah.
Or regiment. Let's make a big regiment, all Pals. What do you mean by Pals, they said? Well, you know, instead of joining, you know, other regiments all over the country, you know, these are strangers, you know, meeting other strangers. Let's make them mates. Let's call them Pals. Let mates come and join a regiment, a Liverpool regiment. They went, oh, that's a good idea. And that's what they did. Mates went into the Liverpool Pals. And that was it. But there was a knock-on effect. You know, other cities went, oh, that's a great idea. But it was Lord Derby who came up with the suggestion.
Yeah.
The idea. Because they'd fight for each other, he said. They'd fight for each other. They'd fight for their mates. And also that was wiped out. It was the Florence Institute football team on that day killed the whole of the football team. All Pals, all mates. in that regiment. Gary Digby says, why have they knocked down half of the city and still doing it? But remember, Anthony, when they wanted to knock down the Lyceum, the bottom of Bold Street, just a few years ago? They wanted to knock it down.
Yeah.
Incredible. They wanted to knock down the post house in Cumberland Street. And the late Freddie O'Connor phoned me up. He said, Frank, get down here. I want you to them. I said, why? So anyway, he got down. He want to knock it down. And, you know, give me my due. And I helped to save it.
Yeah.
Never had a clue. He didn't have a clue. Not a clue. And this is, I said to, I forget who I said to, or the leader of the council. I said, send them to me and I'll give them some history of about buildings. Instead of knocking them down, they'll know the background. Because there was too many getting pulled down. The likes of the White Mansion House in Calderstone.
Yeah.
He wanted to pull that down. I said, have you ever got any idea the history behind that? No, what is it? And I told him, Sir Spencer Perceval, the only British Prime Minister to be assassinated on the 11th of May, 1812. I said, that's his ancestor alone, the White Mansion House, and you want him to pull it down? What for? Why do you want to pull it down? Obviously, it was for the
flats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a strange parallel just gone on, I think, over the past few days, and I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but not too far away from town is Mughal, and Mughal Town Hall burst into flames over the weekend, and there's been talk about property developers wanting to put up blocks of flats there.
I said that only the other day. Anthony, I said that the other day. I said about, I was going to Italy. I was flying to Italy on the night, the night before. It was the arson thing. I think it was arson anyway. Yeah. And I was flying over, and I was devastated simply because the Littlewoods building was it was a landmark.
Yeah.
A landmark.
Yeah.
And it was Art Deco. I love Art Deco, as you know.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. I don't follow the news here anymore. And one of the lads told on the pod the other night. And I've always said, at the time of when it went on fire that time, a few years ago, I said, it wouldn't surprise me if that's arson so they could build their housing. Anyway, when one of the lads said, I'm devastated that the tower's being knocked down. And that was the end of it. That's the end of the building. Because that'll be all demolished. That was going to be a big film studio for Liverpool.
Yeah.
A big, massive film studio. A big lot, as they say. So where's the money? I don't know. And it's shocking. And as Gary Digby says, why have they knocked down half of the city and still doing it? That proves it. It's shocking. Oh, I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. Sick of it, aren't I? Pak Hung Chan says, there was an old lady who lived in Annie Garvey. Yeah, Annie Garvey. Okay, you say. Yeah. There was an old lady who lived in a hut by the pier head who lived to be 100. Her name was Annie Garvey. Annie Garvey. Yeah, good on that, Pak. Gary the Rigby. And look at the state of Scotty Road now compared to ours.
Just devastated. Yeah.
Tell you something. You know St. Anthony's, don't you, on Scotty?
Love it. Yeah.
Right. Do you know where the original St. Anthony's was, Anthony? I don't know whether I've told you this.
I thought it was on the same site. Is that?
No.
No?
No. So I'll tell you where it was.
Yeah.
Before the Catholics were emancipated in 1830, it used to be, now don't forget, you know, after the, during the Reformation and everything else, you know, Catholics couldn't say mass, they couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So St. Anthony, well, it was just a cellar in Skirving Street, the bottom of, or the start, it depends on where you come from, of Great Ormond Street. Skirving Street's still there today.
Yeah.
And it was a cellar. And they said, what shall we call it? We call it St. Anthony's.
Wow.
And it was the very first St. Anthony's church. And Skirving Street, just along the road now, is St. Anthony's.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow. Beautiful. I love that church. I got
So,
to,
you've been the crypt, haven't you?
yes. First time I went in there, I met at the time Father Tom.
Father Tom.
Me lady. And it was Linda Mack who
Oh, Lindsay McDermott, yeah.
I was doing, because as you know, my family from Scotland Road, just over the road, Wright Street. So basically she said, come in, you know. And when we came in, he had meetings going on with students, religious students. And he just said, come down here. And we walked down there, and it was a long, long, dark corridor with one light bulb. Such a powerful impression. I painted it and drew it in many times, but that's when we met him. And he talked us through, and the story of where we entered was almost at the back of the church, and you walk, and as you get closer to the end of this corridor, he said, you're now under the altar, and this is where the rich people wanted to be buried. They felt that if they got buried closer to the altar, they're straight to heaven.
Yeah. Well, I went down there, and it was wonderful. Father Tom brought me down, and I had some of my students with.
Yeah.
And he said, come up, just like that. Come up. So
Yeah.
okay. So we went down. He's bishop now, isn't he? So anyway, we went down, and it was incredible. And I said to him, you know, I said, Father, I said, excuse me, what I'm going to say. He says, yeah, go on. I said, the crypt. I said, it's shaped like a cross. He said, that's right. That's right. I said, but it went further down, you know. I said, I went right down there, right towards, you know, where it is, Scotland Road. I was pointing at the Scotland Road end there. I said, that went further back. I said, on that side, that went further down into Great Ormond Street. I said, and these two went, you know, further back, Scotland Road. That's your cross. And he said, yes, I know. I said, oh, okay then. He said, was you trying to outdo me? I said, no, I just thought, you know, we got so bricked up. What a man.
As you know, he's so respectful of whatever you give him. He'll take it and use it. I painted a picture of that scene because I snapped it on a basic phone I had at the time. I'll send it through to you and Jace. But I didn't expect, I wasn't going to sell it. It was just...
No.
When you're in a moment and you think, wow. So I had a little basic crappy phone, and I took a photograph. This is 1999, and then painted it and called it Father Tom Leads the Way. And it was like ghostly shadows walking down this column.
Wow.
And then I put it up in exhibition a couple of years later, and Tom bought it. So it's in his house, and I'm proud to have met him, proud to know him.
Yeah, same here.
I think it must have been around that time, because he's always, as you know, he's fascinated with history as well.
Oh, yeah.
And he set his head and his heart on declaring St. Anthony's like a heritage site, so people could call in and say, my family were born on Scotland Road. Have you got any information? And he did it in the end, but sadly the church moved him out, because he was made a bishop, but he wanted to stay there in St. Anthony's.
Well, the last time I seen him was this fella found a statue, Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Yeah.
He done it up and he put us on the Elsonian estate here.
Yeah.
And Tony McGann said to me, would you give a little talk? I said, yeah, sure. And I was late because Jason and I were opening up the studio, the studio that day, that morning. Anyway, I said to Jason, I said, I'll have to go. So he said, okay. So I walked down, but I was late. And by the time I got there, he was crowds there. But they were all like dispersing, because Father Tom, Bishop Tom was there now, and there was other priests there. There was a couple of vicars as well, and whatever.
Yeah.
And I come up and he said to me, hello, Francis. I said, hello, Bishop Tom. He said, late again. I went,
Oh.
so I gave the talk, and that was it. The last time I met him.
He is a sincerely proud Scouser.
Oh,
he's a
you know, stays with him when he comes up, because there's a big family of them. You'll know who I mean. I went to see this fella.
The McGanns.
He wanted a set of DVDs, and I went to meet him, and he said, "Listen, have some lunch." I said, "I can't." I said, "I've got to go." And I had a chat with him, and I said, "Are you staying in your mum's?" And he went, "No." He said, "I'm staying with me mate." He says, he puts me up. He said, because there's no room in me mum's. That was Joe McGann. All the McGann brothers, they always met.
Yeah.
And anyway, he said, "No, I'll stay in the." He said, "So I stay at Bishop Tom's place."
People, yeah. He's one. He made me, shortly after we met, and he realised what I did, he made me artist in residence at St. Anthony's.
Go away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did a lot of drawings and stuff there. Loved it. And my dad, who was a calligrapher, used to do the books of, people who passed away into the book. And then that changed when Tom was moved out, because then he had no control over. Yeah, he arranged for us to have the twins baptized, St. Anthony's, and my family Frank, if you'd seen them, were in tears, because it's the first time they'd all been back to St. Anthony's since they were young. Because my family were moved out, Wright Street. The council started moving them all out. 55, 56. And so you went to Kirby, or you went...
Yeah. And a little later on, they went to Skemersdale. They broke all families up and communities.
Whole
Scotland Road area.
Yeah. So that time, Tom made it possible for everyone to come back. St. Anthony's. Beautiful. Yeah.
Mark Simon says, the Strawberry Fields Orphanage would have been a stunning visitor's centre. It's a crying shame. Listen, Mark, I don't know whether you're aware. I was on the BBC, Look Northwest or whatever it was, whatever it's called. And they said, what do you think of the Strawberry Field gates? They're getting sold. I said, I know. An American were buying the gates, Strawberry Fields, to put on his driveway. I said, well, I couldn't swear, like, you know, but anyway. And
it's now opened up as a centre where you can go in and visit. There's a cafe. I don't know much about it. I've not been inside of it, but the gates or replica gates are back, and it's kind of finding a new life. Yeah, we'll have to go in if you want. We'll pick you up, me and Lainey, and we'll go in.
Yeah. Get up there and go to St. Barnabas's. Funny that I gave a talk there on, you know, the Beatles thing.
Oh yeah.
I gave a talk. It was so funny. Yeah, Gary Rigby says, I grew up on Botanic Road looking at Littlewoods. I'm so gutted it's gone. It was me. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I'm sorry, Gary. It was you who told me. It's upset me that night, you know, when you said about the dome going. It's enough. I'm still upset now. It's shocking what this bloody council do. And Gary says, Wavertree High Street is well preserved, so I don't know why they couldn't do that from other main roads.
Yeah, it's struggling at the moment with the pubs. There's not many of them open. That once was. It's a beautiful street, yeah. And up towards Picton as well.
But you know what, Anthony? There was a museum there, right facing Botanical Gardens, a little museum, unnoticed. And it was a museum of Noel Shabazz.
Oh.
It was like a TA place. And they had a room, and it was a cracking thing. And I said, why can't we do that? That should be in the museum, the main museum, dedicated to him. Yeah. Noel Shabazz. I actually held his fob watch. I said, can I hold that? The fellow looked at me and he went, yeah, okay. And I held his fob watch. Noel Shabazz's fob watch. Brilliant little artifacts, by the way.
Wow.
And it's just a shame, you know, the way it's gone.
Wow.
Anthony, what I'm going to do, I'm going to revise the history show. And I'm going to keep the same format. But what I want to do too as well, I'm going to change the day, by the way. I hope you're up for it. Cool. It'll be a midweek.
Frank, I'm really, you know, we've been mates for so long, and I'm really honoured to be on your show whenever it is.
So you don't mind if it's midweek?
I'd struggle with Sunday morning, but other than that, no.
Okay. Because I'll tell you for why. I'm going to do more football pods.
Yeah.
I'm going to do more of them. And the history show, what I'm going to do one half of international history. You know, the likes of Napoleon. Who's Napoleon? Everybody thinks they know Napoleon, but they don't.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to do like the Civil War. I'll be doing the French Revolution. You know, and things like that in one half of the show.
Yeah.
And what we're doing now in either the first or the second half of the show.
Yeah.
Are you up for that? But there'll be no guests. It'll just be you and I. Is that okay?
Again, I'm deeply honoured that you know, to be involved.
You can be honoured. You're a good friend, and you love your history. And
we've talked many times, and some of the questions I've popped you about the greats. You know, I would be well up for that, Frank. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. Yeah. Well, that'll do me. But I'll be in touch anyway, you know, to tell you what day. It'll go out at the same time, by the way, Anthony.
Yeah.
It'll go out at the same time, 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
And again, it might go out at 7 o'clock. I just don't know. If you know what I mean. So bear with me on that. Bear with me on the time.
Yeah.
And let's see. Let's just finish off with these. Pack home chances. Former Littlewoods is being fitted out to be film and TV studios at present. But it's no use if the dome is gone. I don't know. That's what we thought. But people are saying that it's not there. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Oh, yeah. Gary the Rigby says the barracks is still there. It's used for an antique shop now. So where's it Shavas's little museum go?
Hopefully in one of our museums. We've got enough of them.
Trigger says, glad to see you could stay awake this evening. Do you know what? I've got to explain. The other night, what had happened, I couldn't sleep. I had about 2 hours and 48 hours sleep. That's all I had in 48 hours, and I was doing a show the other night. It was the football pod. And I was looking like that, and I was going, Anthony. I was falling asleep. I just said, I'm sorry, I can't go on, because I was slurring and whatever. And it's as though I was drunk and I was falling asleep, but I just couldn't sleep for the previous 48 hours, and it got me. But I'm okay tonight. Thank you, Trigger, for reminding me. Thank you. And the Redbird, another banger, gents. Thank you, Redbird. Hope to see you tomorrow on the football show, 8 o'clock. And the Scouse Red. Strawberry Fields Visitors Centre is run by the Salvation Army and well worth a visit. The original gates are in the garden of the centre. Oh, we'll go there, Anthony, when the weather breaks. You know, I can't bloody walk in this weather, unfortunately.
What looks to be a little cafe in the middle as you go in, yeah?
Could you imagine me? You and Lady in the middle of us?
Yes, of course. Swinging on the gates.
To manage. She wouldn't be able to manage. You know, especially with me at this weather, I can't bloody walk. Honestly, it's shocking. Thanks for that, Fred.
We get a few skateboards.
I think that'll be better, but a few skateboards. Anyway, Anthony, thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Excellent. I'm sorry I never seen it, you know, when I said at the beginning, I said, I can't see Anthony, you know, to Gerard.
I didn't jump on immediately because I wasn't sure if it was going on. And they said to me, you're not with Frank tonight. And I said, I don't know, I'm not sure. I haven't heard nothing. Turned the iPad on, and then it said, Frank Carlyle or Scouse Friends is live. And I thought, oh shit. oh whoops. And you know, Jason had pinged the phone, sent a message.
Well, he sent me a message, but I thought it would be someone just sending me a message. I never thought. And then I finally looked at it, and there, you know, he said he's on. He's waiting to come on.
I'm all right. I was in the green room, was thinking all them scotches that Tony sends along through. You know.
Yanfield Ross sends all them, doesn't he?
Yeah. So thanks, lads. Thank all. And thanks,
anyway, it's just for me to finish up by saying thank you to my mate there, Anthony, and also to Gerard Gilligan, great astronomer, told us loads of things there. You all enjoyed it, I know that, because you were asking them questions. To Gap Painting Services for sponsoring the Frank Carlyle Show. Just get older, and they're absolutely brilliant. First class lads, first class there. And honestly, I strongly recommend them. And thank you to them for sponsoring the Frank Carlyle Show. Also to Jason Pennington, because without Jason, there's no way I'll be on here. There's no way Anthony will be on here. But most importantly, it's to thank you, lads and girls, and everyone else for tuning in. And wonderful comments when Gerard was on. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Trigger says, thanks Frank and Anthony and Gerard for a trip back in our great city's history. Thank you, Trigger. Thank you, mate. And Pakong Chan. Gap are good painters, Frank, but not as good as Anthony.
Oh, right. Man, thank you, Chan. That's...
How about that, hey?
My God.
I'll leave that up. I think that's a cracking comment to end on. And it's just for me to say thank you, people, for all you wonderful football fans. All you wonderful football fans. And I'll just see you tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Thank you. Ciao.